Everybody have an old roll of masking tape at home, which you can't use anymore because the hand is tearing up when you're trying to unstick it or trying to use it. So don't throw it out. Just put it 20 seconds in the microwave. It will melt the glue on it, and after that you can use it like it was a brand new masking tape roll. There you go. Super easy to find the hand of the roll. It's working like a brand new masking tape roll. Even if I tear up the hand, stick it very hard, or the best I can, it's still very easy to get the hand and use it. No more tearing up, no more scratching with your nails for minutes before getting the hand of the roll. Everybody who has a shed or a workshop will most likely to use nails as hook to hang on stuff. And what is more frustrating than trying to hook something to a nail, but it doesn't fit because of the head of the tip of the nail. But there is a simple solution. Just take a pair of general pliers, cut the head of the nail or the tip of the nail, and there you go. You have a small nail where you can hook up pretty much anything, even with a very small hole. Oh, those good old twisted nails. Everybody who's doing renovation, construction, or simply living in a old house and have to renovate some area sometime, I've seen those nails before. It is practically impossible to take them out, especially with that type of hammer, which a lot of people who do only do-it-yourself stuff are using. But it is possible to remove that nail even with that armor. You just need to place a couple of pieces of wood to raise your hammer more equal to the head of the nail, and you will be able to remove it very easily, just like that. If you don't use this method, you will probably end up breaking the handle of your hammer or hurt yourself with a struggle. Everybody who work in construction or renovation, I've seen this situation before. Some dangerous nails sticking out of a piece of wood and not having enough room behind to put the hammer and remove them. Even if you tap the nails, you can get rid of them completely because they are stucking on, in this example, on my workbench, and it's still sticking out. So it's dangerous, and you can't cut your piece of wood because you will damage your saw on the nails. Even with my framing hammer, I can't reach the nail. So in this situation, your best way is to take a pair of general pliers and cut the head of the nail. So you can remove it from the other side of the piece of wood. Let's watch. You put the nail between the teeth of the hammer and you pry on one side or the other. And as you can see, if you have a good hammer, the nail will just come out. And after it's bent enough, you're just pulling it just like that. And without the head, the nail is just coming out pretty easily. But let's say you have only a do-it-yourself hammer, and for this reason it's pretty hard to pry a nail on the side because of the round shape of the hammer. You can just take one of these little pry bar, and now we'll take my big hammer, since the piece of wood is just screwed to my work table. I don't want to rip off everything. But you can do the same thing with the do-it-yourself hammer, as the exception that you will need to hit harder, or maybe more. You will need to give a couple more shots. Now let's say you have two pieces of wood nailed together and you can't reach the head of the nails. and you don't have a little pry bar to dig in the wood and get to the head, and obviously you don't want to ruin your piece of wood. So you just take two hammers and you hit on one with the other, and simply by prying your hammer on one side or the other, your two pieces of wood will split apart. Obviously, when you're doing that, you need to be careful not to hit yourself, to drop the hammer or anything. But it's pretty easy. After that, you just have to remove your nails. Now, for removing the nails, we can try the method we've seen previously in another tip. Using that do-it-yourself hammer, but you'll see you'll struggle a lot. I think you can manage to remove, but it's going so much better when you have a real hammer, framing hammer, or any kind of hammer apart from this one, really. So let's try with the big one. You'll see we just twist on one side one time, then you take your hammer out, and oh, I'm sorry for that, I am out of the frame, but I'm using the same technique that I've used in the previous tip. For the next nail, let's say we have only the cheap hammer, the round one. So let's take our piece of wood to raise the hammer at the right level, and you see with not a lot of effort I managed to remove the nail. It's not ideal, but it's working. But I think the best tip of all is don't buy this hammer, buy something better. For this situation, let's say we want to put a screw on the side of this piece of melamine. For those who have worked with this material already, know that you can't put anything in there, a nail, a screw, it will make the piece split. It will break your piece of melamine. So the way to go is to drill a hole before screwing or nailing anything in there. But let's say, let's try it. Putting a screw regular number 8, 1 inch and a quarter. Let's put it in there without drilling a hole before. I want to put the head flush with the piece, but you saw what happened. The piece broke. Let me remove my bit. And let me show you what happened on a closest angle. As you can see, it broke there. I wanted to put the head of the screw flush with the material so it doesn't sticking out, and it broke. So let's remove that screw and start over on the other side. Before you do the other end, let me show you that there is no hole. It's brand new, or as new as it can be. And for this one, the first hole we'll do, we will try this bit. It's a drill bit hooked up on a milling bit. It's made especially to drill in melamine or to put a screw on a sensitive piece of wood. As you can see, it's working great. It's mining the tip, not the tip, but the start of the hole, so it make room for the head of the screw. So let me fetch a screw and put it in there. And as you can see, the screw is more than flush with the piece. It's inside and nothing has broken. It's clean and it's very solid. But let's say you don't have this bit. It's still possible to achieve the same result by using two different size of drill bit. Let me get those. You start by doing your hole, your original hole in the middle. As a starter, I'm using a 1/8 inch bit, and for the second hole, or for the head of the screw, I'm using a 5/16 bit. But let's do the first hole. Sorry, with the 1/8 inch bit. So it's the same principle. You don't need to be very deep. Actually, you need to be as deep as your screw is long. but in this case it's just 1.25 inch long screws, so no need to be very deep. Now that the 1/8 inch hole is done, you need to make room or make the hole for the head of the screw. But as you can see, I'm going very gently since this bit is cutting very hard and I don't want to get deeper than I need. So let's try our screw. And as you can see, it didn't broke. It does the same result as the milling bit. It's a little less deeper because I didn't go as deep as the other one, but the result is pretty much the same. The piece hasn't broke or is not broken. It's not split like this side. So your best bet is to drill a hole all the time. It's not only in melamine, but in any kind of wood. In this situation, we have a piece of rod. It's 7/16 of inch rod with nuts. And let's say we want to make a bolt with it, but we don't have a head. So let's make ourselves a head. In the moment, you cannot use only one nut because obviously it will spin. But if you lock them together, you will end up with a very strong head to use as a bolt. And trust me, it is very strong. And as you can see, I'm just moving it by finger right now, but there's nowhere those nuts can go unless you loose them up with a wrench. They won't go anywhere, and you can screw it even with a ratchet and they won't go anywhere. And after you're done, you see it's very easy to split them up and have your rod back if you need it for anything else, or if you just need the nuts. As you can see, they are free. In this situation, let's say you just cut a rod, and obviously when you're cutting a rod, the hedge is very dangerous. It's almost like a knife, and you can't screw a nut on it unless you're very lucky. The threads are all messed up and the nuts just want to get in. So you need to shave it so you can screw your nuts on both sides. But to do it, you need your rod to be steady, and obviously you can't put a rod in a vise because you will damage the thread. So the way to go is to put some nuts on the rod so you can put it on a vise without damaging anything, and so you can have some control on it. It is strong enough so you can work around it without damaging anything. In this example, I will put 3 nuts, but I'm pretty sure you can do the same only with using 2 nuts. But I rather use three nuts because my vise is not super strong, and I want the rod to be very steady while I was working on it. Now that the nuts are installed on the rod, let me get my vise, my small little vise. You want the nuts to be all sitting flat between the jaw, so it's straight, and there's no chance that it gets loose when you work on it. And as you can see, I still can turn the rod, so it's easy to work on it, and I don't have to loose the jaw to move or to turn the rod. Then since the nuts are not too close from each other, they're not locked to each other, I can freely turn the rod in the nuts, so it's very easy to work with it, and it's way faster since I don't have to loose anything. As you can see, grinding the hedge of this rod is pretty fast. I'm almost done already. I could have done that with a grinder, but by the time I take it out and take extension electric cord out and be ready to do it, I will be done only with the shaving. So as you can see now, it's not edgy anymore. I can touch it without cutting myself, and I can now remove the nuts because the job is done. Now when you do the hand of a rod like that, your best bet is to unscrew or take a nut out on this end of the rod. So if the thread was still damaged after you shaved the hand, when you unscrewing the nuts on this side, it basically redoing or fixing the damaged thread. So as you can see, it's getting out pretty easily. If I want to put it back, it's also very easy if I'm not dropping the nuts. So you see, it's it's super easy to get in and out. So that's how you fixing the hand of a rod after you did cut it. And now that I'm done, I can unlock my two other nuts and take them out of the rod. When you do that, make sure not to squeeze your finger between the two wrench, because it's not pleasant to squeeze your finger between them, since you're applying a certain force. It's pretty hard. This won't be a demonstration since I didn't have the material at the time, but it's an important tip on when you are drilling into steel or any hard stuff. Let's say you want to drill a 3/8 of inch hole. You can drill 3/8 directly, because you will burn your bit and you will ruin it completely. So you need to start by a smaller bit. So what I generally do is starting with a small, between 1/4 of inch and 1/8. Not too small, because you will break your drill bit, but not too big to burn your material either. So as you can see, I'm using 3 or 4 bits, but it's the way to go when you want to drill on hard stuff, but you will damage your bit. It won't cut anymore if you burn it on a piece of steel. So that was a quick tip on how to drill on steel. Start with a small bit and make your way up to a bigger hole. This is a tip for painter or people who want to renovate or need to use paint in general. Every time you are pouring some paint into a smaller bucket from your gallon, it's making a mess. There's a lot of paint sticking or staying in that gap, and it's stuck there. When you put back your lid, the lid is sticking in it, and you struggle and you breaking things to get it out. So the way to go is to pinch some hole with a nail around this lip before pouring the paint. And since you're not using a drill bit but you're using a nail, there's no chip of metal that go in the paint. It's just punching a hole. And now when you will pour some paint in your bucket or in your small pot, you won't have to worry about paint staying in this slip. It will go straight back in and the extra paint won't spill everywhere on your clothes or on the floor when you will hit the lid to close it up. And when you will open your gallon again, there won't be any paint on the lip. It will be clean. So when you will start painting and wiping your brush on the side of the gallon, You won't have part of skin of paint in your job.